Had several moments of crisis in your career. You had the Pentagon Papers when you decided to publish against the very real threat of a court order. You had obviously the running battle with the Nixon White House during Watergate. And in both cases, you were betting the future of the Washington Post. Again, what is it like? How alone do you feel? What gets you through it?
Chris, thank you for asking that question. I have stressed many times that Watergate was really never a decision because I was backing the editors, and we went into it gradually, and we were alone, I must say, for months. And I did back the editors, but I believed in them, and so there was really no choice. It started very small and it grew. Now, in the Pentagon Papers, which for most of you don't remember what the Pentagon Papers were, they were the history commissioned by Bob McNamara when he left the Pentagon of the Vietnam War, and the decisions made therein, of course, which the general was part of lower down, and a very brave and terrific one. And in the Pentagon Papers had been given by Daniel Ellsberg to the New York Times, and the New York Times had published them after thinking about it for 3 months. And then they had been enjoined by the administration and taken to court and stopped on the theory that the government could use prior restraint against a newspaper. And so they had been stopped, and in the meantime, just as they were stopped, the Pentagon Papers were delivered to us. And so we were writing the story of the Pentagon Papers all day long, but we just had one day. And the editors and the reporters really thought we had to resume where the Times left off, and that momentum was very important to keep up. And I was giving a farewell cocktail party for an executive who was leaving. So I was at my house, and they were at Ben Bradley's house. And with them was my colleague, who was chairman of our board, Fritz Beebe, who was a lawyer. And so it never occurred to me that anything would happen to us, and I thought we were going to go ahead and publish. And we were in the very act of going public. Our stock had gone to the brokers on Wall Street, but had not been sold. And so I was called to the phone when we were right on deadline, because what had in fact happened was that the editors and the publishers said, of course we're going to publish. And the lawyer said, really, you can't, because this is really double jeopardy in the face of the Times being enjoined. And so I got on the phone and I said, why can't we think it over? The Times thought it over for 3 months. And the editors and the reporters convinced me that momentum and the idea that you couldn't enjoin the press, you couldn't stop the press in advance of publication was very important, and that they had to print that night. And so I had to make up my mind on the phone, and I said to Fritz Beebe at the other house, what would you do? Because I got along with him wonderfully. I loved his judgment. And he said, I guess I would not, because I can understand that. We were going public. It was very risky, and the administration was threatening us. And I really was convinced by the editors and the reporters that they were right, and that we really had to go ahead. And so I really gulped, and I really was not what your heroic leader is. I just said, oh, go ahead. I mean, and Ben Bradley, who is a really, truly wonderful figure and a great colleague of mine, turned around to his colleagues and said, she said, I say we print. So, but in effect, I did say that, but after I gulped. And we did print, and we did win in front of the Supreme Court after 10 days of going right up there very fast. And it was a very mixed decision and a very difficult one, and a lot of split sort of opinions on the court, but we did win that issue, and it was very important. And the really wonderful thing about this decision is I had to make it in 30 seconds, and I stood a 50% chance of being right.